Hello everyone. Welcome to another lesson in grade 8 mathematics. For a starter, we have a 15-meter plank here, and we need to cut it into three parts. Now, what would your lengths or different lengths would be? You can write your answer here and share it with your class so that they can see it as well. But the big question is, can it form a triangle or not? And today we're going to find out what different measurements can form and cannot form a triangle. So first, let's start with our learning objective and success criteria for us to be guided in this learning journey. Okay, so first you can identify the valid combinations of side lengths that can form a triangle, or you can compare the different sum of two shorter sides of a triangle to the length of the longest side to find the pattern. Or you can justify why three specific lengths can or cannot form a triangle. Okay, so let's try to proceed with our starter. We have already talked about that one, the big question, and let's start with a scenario. And for us to understand why do we need to learn this topic, here is the scenario. A heavy rainstorm just hit the city, and the strong winds have damaged several houses, and your house needs some repairs. And you can't do it alone. And we have to ask help from our friends. So if you can write the name of your friends here that you have trusted, be proud to write their names. Okay? Then we have the challenge. So here we have a house that doesn't have a roof, maybe because of the heavy rainstorm. But for the instruction, let's read it for the clarity of everything. The blue and green blocks represent the different lengths of wooden planks. So we have different blue numbers here and the green numbers, and it represents the different blocks, planks, or different lengths. Then we can click the button to see the length of each plank. Okay, so we can see it real time. Then we need to explore the different combinations of our lengths so that we can check whether they can form a triangle or not. Okay, so we already have the first line here, which is 10. So we have two more sides already to figure out what cannot form a triangle. So let's start with, let's say, 3. Then we have 4 on the other side. So using the construction tool, the circle one, we can create a circle here to see the movement of your line. Then I'm going to choose the ruler. So as you can see, this is the line that follows the path of your circle. So that means you are only allowed to uh, move at the edge of your circle. So no matter where we move it, we can just reach until here. Okay, so we cannot pass through the edge of the circle. Same goes with another circle for the 4 units. We can move until here. And as we have noticed, no matter how we move it, make them a little bit closer to each other, it can never form a triangle. Okay, so that is already a no-no for us. So using the length of 3, 4, and 10, we cannot form a triangle. Let's try to have let's try a different number here. So let's erase everything first. So we can select this one. And don't worry, the numbers and the buttons will not be erased, no matter how you highlight. Okay, then let's have 6 and another 6. Let's see if we can form a triangle out of the numbers. So we have to click our construction tool, circle again, and another circle. And as we can see, if we're going to use the ruler, we can move from here to here, and we can see that they met on a specific intersection of their circles. So we can see that we can form a triangle right there. So we can erase or highlight the circles so that we can erase them. And we have a roof already. So with the 6, 6, and 10, we can form a triangle. But what are the different combinations of lengths that can form a triangle aside from 6, 6, and 10? And what are the different combinations using these 2, 3, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, and 8 that cannot or can form a triangle? Okay, I'll leave that up to you. You try to discover and explore. Next, for the next slide, we have the different combinations or the limits of the different slides or the different lengths that we have in the previous slide. So write P if the given lengths can possibly form a triangle, and write N if otherwise. So we have a guide question here, and don't hesitate to ask your teacher if you have any other question. Okay, so this learning journey is shared by all of us, so don't hesitate to ask some questions and clarifications. Then we have the checkpoint number 1. Using the table, how will you going to summarize the different lengths that can form or cannot form a triangle? So this is just a checkpoint to really check your understanding before we proceed to the next slide. Then, for the next slide here, which of the following is the correct formula? So based on the table, can you see any pattern? So don't forget to click your answer and click submit. There's a surprise for you here. Also, we have the justification problem. Now, your friend's pet needs a roof for its house. So based on the measurements that you have chosen earlier in your 15-meter plank, this is where you're going to use it. So can your number earlier in your 15-meter plank can form or cannot form a triangle? Justify your answer and share it with your class. Also, we have hit the last part of our lesson, wherein you are going to revisit all the learning objectives if you're able to meet all of those. Also, we have the optional problem for you if you would really like to challenge yourself here. And don't forget to wrap up the lesson and share to us what you feel about this lesson. Okay, that's all, and I hope you enjoy learning. Goodbye.